Welcome, one and all, to the Friday, March 17th edition of Signals from Mars. I'm your host, Victor, and I welcome aboard a gallivanting crowd of patrons who join me week after week here. We have Dan in California, we have Jeremy in the UK, and we have Johan smiling ever so brightly there up in Sweden. How is everyone today?
Very good.
Good Friday night.
Woohoo!
Excellent. So we have a bunch of topics that we've been throwing back and forth throughout the week. Seemed as if a bunch of things just kind of dropped in our lap between yesterday and today. But there's plenty of stuff to talk about here. The first point here, I'm sure Johan is probably going to say right off the bat, who cares? Because we know how much most places in Europe care about, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Grammys, and Rolling Stones 100 greatest heavy metal songs. Have people in Sweden been discussing Rolling Stones list?
No, I haven't seen much online, but I like that you enlighten me about this list. So
Okay.
it's good to see.
So Jeremy sent this to me earlier this week, and I instantly jumped to the top 10.
Yeah.
Because most of these lists are made usually to troll people, to get clickbait reactions. And right away, there have been, for example, Rob Flynn of Machine Head made this whole big post this week saying that no Testament and no Exodus is on the list. So he had problems with that. And then some websites talked about the fact that there was no song on this list that had come out after 2005. So they were questioning the validity of this list as well. I mean, I've only looked at 10 through 1. Let's see. All right. Let me just count down 25 to 1. 25 is Rainbow in the Dark from Dio. 24, South of Heaven, Slayer. 23, Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue. 22, Caught in a Mosh, Anthrax. 21, The Trooper, Iron Maiden. 20, Round and Round by Rat. 19, Peace Sells by Megadeth. Be good if they used a picture of the band from that era, not the Rust in Peace era. 18, The Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. 17, Back in Black by AC/DC. 16, Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden. 15, Angel of Death, Slayer. 14, Stargazer by Rainbow. That's surprising that that's that high. 13, Paranoid by Black Sabbath. 12, Cult of Personality by Living Colour. Love the song, but I don't know if it should be that high. 11, One by Metallica. I have always hated this song. 10, Run to the Hills, Iron Maiden. 9, Holy Diver by Dio. 8, Raining Blood by Slayer. 7, Iron Man by Black Sabbath. 6, Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. 5, War Pigs by Black Sabbath. 4, Breaking the Law by Judas Priest.
Overplayed.
Yeah. 3, Ace of Spades by Motorhead. 2, Master of Puppets by Metallica. And 1, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Johan, now that you've heard me 25 through 1, do you think that that's a good list?
Actually, I have read the list from top to bottom.
Okay.
Um I mean, of course, it's a good list because it's all good songs, but
Right.
the ranking is, yeah. I mean, number one, Black Sabbath from Black Sabbath. Yeah, I mean, that's a song for us who are already in the. We are already invited to the metal genre, but I don't know. It's. I don't think the number one should be perhaps the number one, although it's perhaps the first truly metal song. But yeah, it's the list is what it is. It's made by people who don't listen to metal
Yeah.
as much as we do,
Right.
and we have to accept that.
And just so you guys know, I just mentioned that there were sites, I believe it was Metal Injection or Metal Sucks had complained about the fact that there was no song after 2005. Number 98, Executioner's Tax, Swing of the Axe by Power Trip 2017. So that right there throws that their validity out the window. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think these lists are very subjective. They're obviously, if the four of us decided on our top 100, there'd be a lot of overlap, but there'd be a lot of different songs on there.
Yeah.
You could make a case for some of the songs that are lower down the order to be much higher, and vice versa. I can also see why they've chosen Black Sabbath as number one, because it's like it's their first track off their first album. It's kind of like an introduction into the metal genre for many people at that time. But is it the best metal song?
Right.
Most of us would probably disagree. I noticed there was a few songs on there that I would pick which weren't even in the top 100. Never mind, they should be in the top 10.
Right.
And I thought for a long time, what's my favorite heavy metal song of all time? And obviously it's a very, very difficult choice to make. But for a long time, I thought that "Falling Off the Edge of the World" by Black Sabbath is my favorite song, because it combines everything about heavy metal in the one song that I like. It has great melody. It has more than one great riff in it. It has great solo. It has a great singer, a great guitarist, and it has the lyrics of a heavy metal song. And to me, that is almost perfect. But obviously, you could make a case for your favorites. But if it gets people into metal, I think it's a good thing. These sort of lists, people will look at those lists and they'll say, "Oh, I've never heard that song," or "I've never heard that one," and it's worthwhile.
Yeah, Dan, your opinion?
Oh, it's a mix. Jeremy hit it out with the Black Sabbath Dio song is tops all of those, Paranoid and Black Sabbath. We're going to talk about Black Sabbath in 2 weeks, so we'll get onto that track, which is a definite introduction to metal. But yeah, Cult of Personality is overplayed and had its moment, and it's done, and it's not one of the top songs, and I don't even know if it's metal to me. But then you put in Raining Blood, and hell yeah. But I don't know what you said about 2015. I know that in 2012, I'm checking my thing here, and Testament did one of my favorite songs that is not going to make anybody's top 10 list, and now I lose it. The Last Stand for Independence. It's not in any of their set lists. You're not going to talk about that song from Testament, and that to me is like top 5 Testament songs. Might be my favorite now of all, and that's in 2012. But it is interesting how their list does not have anything recent except for that one Swing of the Axe, which now makes me curious. What songs do I really think are great after 2015? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue is, holy shit, Smoke on the Water 34. Come on. I mean, this is, I think all of you guys have made really good points, but a lot of these songs to me are your safe Radio friendly songs. Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath is 31. There's just no way. Fucking Enter Sandman is before that at 30. Walk by Pantera, 29. Wow. Judas Priest, Living After Midnight. Are you telling me that Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight are the only two Priest songs on here? Yes, they are. That's a
I'd
fucking
put
joke.
I'd put Steeler above that song, above those songs before any of them. First
I
of
would
all,
put a ton of songs, and like
Yeah.
you said with Black Sabbath, again, this is all subjective. Do fuck Master of Puppets? Okay, I've got no problem with Master of Puppets at number 2 because that to me is a huge song. Ace of Spades by Motorhead, 3. Again, radio friendly, on the radio every day. I could think of a ton of Motorhead songs that I like a lot more than this, but I get it. Breaking the Law at 4 is stupid. War Pigs at 5, stupid. Crazy Train at 6. It's not even the best fucking song off of that album, in my opinion.
you want to, there are so much better Ozzy songs than that one, but it is a good one. But
Yeah, absolutely. But here's my thing with these lists. Okay, this is like when people still tell me nowadays, Jimi Hendrix, greatest guitarist of all time. When you look at the automotive industry, no one ever says that the Model T, which was the first car that Henry Ford rolled off of the assembly line, is the greatest of all time. In music is the only fucking thing where the first thing that ever came about, it's the greatest. Nothing is ever better. Seriously? Out of all this stuff, even Iron Maiden, it's Run to the Hills, it's The Trooper, and that's it. And Hallowed Be Thy Name. You're telling me that
yep.
I would take, I don't know how many Iron Maiden songs before all of those. I can't stand in 2023. I can't stand Hallowed Be Thy Name. I've heard that song so many times that if, it's one of these things where I'll listen to it once a year and I'll say, okay, I'm good. Don't need to listen to it again the rest of the year. Again, Jeremy, I think you brought up the most important point. So this eclipses anything that I have to say. And if this gets kids to check out heavy metal, then I have no problem with this list. So, my son, for example, I'm trying to think. There was Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. I had to tell him yesterday to stop playing that song because every day this week we had woken up to hearing that song 5 straight times. And I said, okay, let's skip this new song. But I thought you liked this song. I said, yes, but we've already filled the amount of times I can listen to this song the rest of this year. But we're in March. I said, yep, but you hit the spot already. No need to listen to this anymore.
A girl took me into a club once and that song was on. It was just beginning. She goes, hang on, watch this, what everybody's going to do. And they all start flipping their fingers off when that chorus starts going.
Yeah.
And I laughed. Yeah.
I have the promo tape for that album. And I remember playing it for my friends and saying, this is going to be big. And they were like, no way. Nobody's going to like this. I'm like, you'll see. 3 months later, that song blew up when the album officially came out. So, all right. Next topic here. Metallica buys vinyl pressing factory. Now, this is the factory that they've been using for all of the reissues these last few years. It's called, is it Foundry Vinyl? Jeremy, is it something like that?
Yeah, I think it's Foundry, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think this is a smart move. With all the shortages that there have been with vinyl last few years, this guarantees that now they can print their own stuff when they want. They can control the quality. And here's the other thing. For everything that everyone shits on Lars and the band, they care about music. So, what's the best thing that could come out of this? Well, maybe Metallica dumps a shitload of money into making more vinyl pressing factories around the world. Because right now, no one, and when we had, damn it, Trevor from, no, Todd, not Trevor, Todd from, Ripple.
From Ripple.
Yeah, he mentioned how there's 5 big factories around the world, and that nobody wants to spend money to make more factories. Well, maybe someone like a Metallica is interested in doing that. Maybe they have enough money to do it, and maybe that's the next logical step for them. You know, it would allow them maybe to tour less or whatever, because there's so much money in vinyl right now that they can make a decent amount of money, you know, making several of these factories and printing vinyl for other people. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good for the music industry. It's good for vinyl records. It's good for those of us who buy vinyl. They obviously are investing. It might encourage some of the other big bands to do the same.
Right.
It might not, but they could do that, and then that they secure their supply as well. But while they're securing their own supply, they're also securing the supply of newer music that uses the same label, and that's a good thing, because I feel that the cost of making vinyl is going up. So a lot of these vinyl companies are going to be struggling. They're going to be borrowing money, which is a higher interest rates. They're, the demand for certain amount of types of vinyl is going to be up or down all the time, and it's an economic thing at the end of the day. And I feel it's going to be a bit of security for an industry which, at the moment people are saying, well, vinyl's taking off, but it's only going to take off as much as people want to buy it.
Right.
And if the cost keeps going up, it's a problem. So yeah, I think it's a good thing all around. Really, it's good for Metallica, and it's good for the music buyer, and it's good for the smaller bands. I'd like to see more of it. Really.
Yeah. And to your point, we talked about this throughout this week about, I had ordered Empire and Operation Mindcrime from Queensryche on vinyl when they reissued it, and both of those got canceled because they had run out of vinyl. There's a vinyl shortage. Since then, vinyl has gone up how much in price? I mean, we were seeing vinyl in the 20 some odd dollar, 20 some odd euro for me. And now almost everything is 30 plus. Everything is 32, 37, 39. So it's gone up. Dan, what do you think? Do you think this makes sense for Metallica to buy their own vinyl printing factory?
I wasn't aware of the news of it. So, this is the first I've heard of it. It makes sense. It's a good move for them. They have their own production company, their own label, their own everything. Why not add that to do that and to be their own man? So, and then what they can do for others, absolutely, why not? They give money away to charity. Some people will bitch and complain, like you'll mention sometimes on Twitter, of them not giving enough money. But it's a good move, and right on for them.
Okay. Quick hello to Jose in the chat and Tony, who's just joined us. The problem is a little bit of both. After a fire that took place like 5 or 6 years ago, it took out one of the biggest vinyl printing plants. And due to the cost to rebuild it and actually get people, because you have to, apparently you have to hand make some of the parts required. I don't know if that's changed. So there was an issue with the crude vinyl itself not being available after that whole Suez Canal thing. And then there's an issue with they're going from, one of the biggest plants going down in flames, literally, to there only being five big plants around the world. There's a lot of small plants around the world, but we're talking about plants that can print maybe 20 or 30 vinyls a day, as opposed to these plants that are printing hundreds a day. So, Johan, what are your feelings on the topic?
Well, agree with both Dan and Jeremy, of course. But this made the headline news here in Sweden,
Wow.
both on national radio and national TV.
Hmm.
So, it was big news here, and good news, I must say, of course.
Yeah.
So this is actually all good for us music lovers. So
Yeah. Yeah.
good work, Metallica, for
Yeah.
once. Great. Yeah.
See that? You get the important news as headlines. Metallica getting a vinyl factory, buying a vinyl printing plant. Headline news: Rolling Stone shitty list. Nowhere near the news.
Of course not.
Okay. Another thing that Jeremy brought up this week was record store signings. I forget, there was something earlier this week that we'd been talking about regarding this, and I don't remember at the moment, Jeremy. I'm brain farting, so enlighten me. No.
Well, Def Leppard were doing a signing
Okay.
at HMV in Sheffield,
Yes.
in their hometown, their home city here in the UK. And so, I sort of mentioned that, and you had to obviously buy their new album to actually join the queue. And I thought, what do we think of signings? Is it something we like to go to? Is it something more bands should do? Is it good? Is it good for bands? Is it good to see big bands there, little bands, smaller bands? I mean, over here in the UK, we have a few smaller bands that go around some of the record stores and they play a few songs as well. They get a big queue there on a Friday or a Saturday, and it's a good thing. They sell some albums. So, if you're asking me personally, I think it's great, and I'd love to see more of the bands do it. I'd love to see all the big bands go around all the record stores, because it's great for the record store as well as the
Yeah.
band. I mean, we want record stores to survive, not just HMV, but all the independents as well. And if you can get people out to a record store, you're going to sell not just the copy of that band who are there, but you might see something else that day, and you'll go home with 2 or 3 albums, and that's got to be good for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Dan, do you think it's fair that they only have, or they'll only allow you to buy the new album in order to get a vinyl signed?
I guess so. I suppose so. I'm thinking like the Ozzy one that just happened 2 months ago or so, and I didn't go, and I should have gone, and I'm always going to kick myself. So here's Ozzy in Long Beach or Los Angeles, whatever, one of those bigger areas.
Right.
I think they made you buy, but I think if you're gonna go there, I think you should be willing to buy it anyways. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
Can they force you? It depends on the level of the musician, I suppose. If it's Ozzy, yes, you should have to buy the album. Maybe if it's a lesser band, then you just show up, like Queensryche back in the day or something like that I'm thinking of. But that's not my call.
But you could buy any album by that band, couldn't you? You don't have to buy their latest album. Even if you bought an older album that's in the store, it's brand new. You're buying a copy of whatever, Holy Diver by, well, it wouldn't be Dio because obviously he's not alive, but a band that's going, buy an older album by them, and you could get that signed as well.
Yeah,
because I'd like to get. I'd love to meet Def Leppard. I like Def Leppard, but I'd like to buy High and Dry and take that and get them to sign that rather than their latest stuff, which I hate.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good. I could go either way. It's not my decision. That's a hard one. Should you be forced to buy the band's album? I don't know. I could see it both ways.
Johan, are these types of signings, are they a thing in Sweden?
I have been to some signings at festivals,
Okay.
but since I'm living in a small town, so I only see it in the papers and in the social media and so forth. So, but I've been to Nightwish, Blind Guardian, and Sick of It All, a hardcore band from New
Yeah,
York.
yeah. New York. Yeah.
And those three signings were very, that was good. Shake hands and actually speak to the members of the band. So, yeah, I like signings.
Okay.
Yeah,
You-
good thing. Yeah.
So, Johan, you got to scratch the surface?
Yeah, I met them more than once, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I have scratched the surface and I have seen them a lot of times. Yeah.
Some of these back in the day, when it was more Tower Records or whatever, warehouse music, when they were here or whatever, they would get out of control. So you would have Duran Duran or Depeche Mode or something like that. And you'd hear about, they're going to have a record store signing, and the kids would just go crazy and they'd have, riots and stuff like that. So it's a good thing. It's a good promotion, but it could easily sometimes get out of control. Maybe that's why it stopped.
Yeah.
I think what Jeremy said makes the most sense, though. I mean, these bands want to sell copies of their albums, and they want you to support, smaller stores. They have Record Store Day now all over the world.
Bring it back.
Have it so that these bands are there and pushing their stuff. The other day when I spoke to Joe Delaney from Joetown, I talked to him about the fact that back in the day, a band put out an album and they played 4, 5, 6 songs off of that album on the tour to promote it. Now you have a band that puts out a whole album and you're lucky if they play one song. So how are you going to sell that if you yourself aren't behind the album? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, Maiden should do in stores on the day of the show like they used to do back in the day to help sell those albums, and Metallica the same, and all this. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Metallica is going to do to break 1 million this time around, since they can't include CDs with the tickets anymore. Well, you brought Def Leppard up, Jeremy, so we'll go that route. You mentioned that Def Leppard, much to almost everyone's surprise, hey, new album, Drastic Symphony is what it's called, and it's them with the London Philharmonic. Who here wants to hear Def Leppard with an orchestra? I mean, is this a sign that they have no balls at all anymore? I mean, just to be, I'm being kind of vulgar there, but what the fuck? What's next step is what? An acoustic album? I mean, this makes zero sense. A band that's really never released live albums before. If you really think about it, they've done a few VHSs, a few DVDs here and there, but never really a big, huge live album that we could talk about. We could also debate whether they're actually live or not. But who wants this album? I mean, I don't get this. I mean, this is like 25 years too late. The orchestra albums were a mid-90s thing. It was you either did an orchestra album or you did an unplugged. It was one or the other. And a lot of bands did both because they didn't make enough money off of the one, so they tried the other. AKA, or Kiss, Scorpions, Metallica. I mean, list goes on and on.
I'd be curious if actually any of the members can speak to it and say that they're really behind it and why they believe in it.
I mean, I heard the teaser clip that they released is them doing Animal, and all I was thinking was, this sounds like the string orchestra version, the lullaby version that they sell for kids, to put your kids to sleep. It's what it sounded like to me. Like, oh wow, that's Joe Elliott kind of singing over. Okay.
Mm. I guess there's a certain amount of their fan base who are now in their 60s and maybe 70s, and they on a Sunday afternoon they get their newspaper and their cup of hot drink and a few biscuits, cookies in America, of course, and they sit down in front of the fire and they put on their new Def Leppard orchestra album, and they're really enjoying themselves.
Yeah. Same people that are having dinner at 4 p.m. and make sure to be in bed by 5:30.
They're the same people.
Same people. Oh my God. Johan, coming from the land of all things hard rock and metal, will this album sell more than one copy in Sweden?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, Def Leppard were really big here in Sweden, but I guess not. I think this is a miscalculation from the band because they think that we haven't done this before, so we try this. And I don't. This is very, very strange, stupid. I would listen to it. Have you heard it?
No, it isn't out yet. I think it comes out next month, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a big surprise. Nobody knew. And that's the other thing. They didn't even record this. Like most bands that do this record it in front of an audience. Like that's what Deep Purple has done twice. That's what Metallica's done twice. That's what Kiss has done. That's what Scorpions have done. Def Leppard, all in the studio. So if there was any question about them doing 100 million overdubs before.
Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to say, Victor. They have done some overdubs before, haven't they?
A few, yeah. so my goodness, I don't know. I saw it initially when you sent the whole signing thing to me, and I saw Drastic Symphonies. I'm like, should I ask what the fuck that is? I'm like, I hadn't heard of it, and then I Googled it, and I was like, orchestra album with London Philharmonic. I'm like, no.
They certainly picked the right title.
Drastic Shitfinies would have been better to go along with Diamond Shart Halos.
Well, I just read the subject line, the headline, and I didn't go any further into it, but Lars is saying that we're kind of all wrong, that Lulu aged fine and it's great and everybody could listen to it or whatever. So is Joe Elliott going to say in 10 years, you guys were all wrong about our symphony album?
We were all ignorant as well. We all forget that was Lars's pet project, trying to pander to the indie rock crowd that was never going to accept Metallica to begin with. And I've tried several times to listen to that. I've listened to Lulu all the way through once.
Ooh, I've never done that.
Yeah, and I tried a second time, and I don't even know what song it is, but there's one song where Lou Reed says "spermless like a girl" for 7 straight minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get to that part, I'm done.
Here in Los Angeles area, we're having problems with our subway metro line, as I guess other countries are having, whatever. So in one of the stations, they're starting to play loud classical music, whatever, to keep people from hanging out too long. I think I should tell them Metallica Lulu in loop over and over. If anybody can stay in there for more than one album listen through, they deserve to stay in there.
Oh my God, that's... I read that. Oh, people are just ignorant. I think maybe the person saying it is ignorant. So, yes, Tony is saying Def Leppard Ballet next. That would not surprise me. And excuse me, but they may have done that already. Because I think after their country music phase, they started doing some shenanigans like that. No, I'm wrong. But there's plenty of people dancing to Def Leppard on the internet, I see. And that's without mentioning all the strippers dancing to Pour Some Sugar on Me. The other Def Leppard news that came out yesterday. Disturbing as all fuck. Rick Allen getting attacked outside of their hotel in Florida. We don't know the motive yet, but apparently somebody ran out to save him. And the guy that attacked Rick Allen then attacked her when she tried to get away and run into the hotel. He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her back out of the hotel. Apparently the guy ran away, and then he was caught in another hotel that was adjacent to this one. So some sad news, because no one deserves to have that happen. Why would anyone attack Rick Allen? I mean, guy obviously has one arm. My first thing coming from the land of people getting high off of salt balls and stuff like that this guy must have been high out of his mind to attack Rick Allen. Or I don't know, maybe he went up to him thinking that, realizing who Rick Allen was, and maybe went up to him asking for money. And when Rick didn't have any money or didn't want to give him anything, maybe that's when he attacked him. I mean, this is, to me, is just, to me, it's sad. Regardless what you think of the last few albums, again, I don't think that Rick Allen deserves that. So, Johan, did this make the news in Sweden? Rick Allen getting attacked?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It did. No, as you said, very sad. No one deserves to be attacked. So, only sad, even though he's a rock star and all that. But nothing good about this. Nothing.
Yeah. Jeremy, did this make the news in the UK?
Only sort of blabbermouth online stuff. Nothing on in the news on the TV here. But yeah, I agree with Johan. It's just a very sad case. You just wonder whether he was actually targeted or whether he didn't even know who he was. It sounds like a lunatic. And he obviously attacked the person who was helping Rick as well. So he obviously must have been on something. And you just hope it was a one-off and that Rick's okay, and we don't want to hear this sort of thing again, really.
Yeah. Dan, go ahead.
So to me, it has to be a one-off, and it's just wrong place at the wrong time. Rick Allen has been on the Monsters of Rock cruise a few times in a row, and he puts himself out there and he mingles with people. I spoke with him briefly. He takes pictures. He is a super nice guy, and I know he's caught in that moment on the ship, so he probably should be that way. I can't imagine being any other way, even out in public. And this was, I think, at the Four Seasons. So I haven't been that place. I've been in Fort Lauderdale. I can picture everything there. Mm-hmm. It's usually a pretty good area. So I think it's just bath salts or wrong place at the wrong time. Just happened to attack Rick for whatever reason. That's too bad,
Yeah, it's definitely a shame.
The Queensryche guys, they go running down the hallway and avoid people, and they just run and cower of, oh no, someone's going to approach them. But Rick will stand around with his jacket and just, sign whatever and smile, and absolutely, I got all the time for you. So
that's so weird to hear that, because you would think that a band like Queensryche, would, especially given the diehard nature of their fans, that they would be much more approachable.
Listen to my friend Jason on the YouTube shows that he speaks the same thing. I agree. They're non-approachable.
Wow.
That's cornered.
Only band that I know of like that, and I've been told by several touring bands that they pull this with their opening acts. Sad to say, is Anthrax. where apparently their roadies tape off the areas where the opening acts can stand and be, and they're not allowed to look at the members of the band in the face or their eyes or anything like that. And I'm thinking, seriously, like 40 years later, they were in this position once. Did any band do that to them? Has Maiden ever done that to them? Has Kiss ever done that to them? That's just such a shame. So, the other bit of news that sort of dropped these last 2 days, which I don't know if these are sites in the UK that are trolling us, or if there's any validity to this at all, but Ozzy touring in a wheelchair. I mean, and right away they brought up, well, Dave Grohl and Axl Rose. And I mean, if you want to go the extreme route, Jeff Becerra of Possessed is paralyzed and been singing in a wheelchair for, a few decades now. But does this make sense after they just canceled his entire tour? Don't you think that this would have been something they looked into before that? Or was the cancellation them collecting insurance money? I mean, I would think that if they ultimately did this, they ended up getting something out of this tour that they just canceled. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't seem like it'll work. Doesn't seem like it'll be. Did it make sense, Dan? What do you think?
At the last few days of Sweet being around, the U.S. version, Steve Priest, the bass player, they would help him out, practically carry him to a chair so he could sit down and play bass for everybody and still be part of the band. But that's, he probably still needed the money. He might wanted to play. Does this make sense for Ozzy to come out in a wheelchair? I don't see it. I think you're being trolled.
Yeah. Johan, did this make the news in Sweden?
No, only on my Facebook. No, this is of course not this is not serious journalism, but I wouldn't want to see Ozzy in a wheelchair. I saw him perhaps, I think it was 2018, and he was over the top back then, and I don't think that he would be any better in a wheelchair. So I'm happy that Ozzy retired, and I hope he have a really good retirement with his kids and his family, and he has a fantastic history. So yeah.
Cool. Jeremy, being that the story emanates from the UK, has this been news in the UK, given that both he and Sharon are TV personalities there?
Yeah, they do get a lot of airplay over here. Stuff like that can go on Sky News over here, and at the bottom in the entertainment section. And so, yeah, you would get to hear this sort of thing. Obviously, you missed off Paul Di'Anno as well. He'd sat down, and the big problem is that. If we'd have said this 10, 15, 20 years ago, we'd have laughed, as long as we could about rock stars sitting in wheelchairs. But there have been several, you've just mentioned them, who have been prepared to go out there and do it. So is it impossible that Ozzy would do it? No, it's not impossible. It's a possibility. Whether I don't want to see it, and I hope it never happens, and it's unlikely, but I think that it's still possible. And Ozzy himself said that he's thinking about ways that he could maybe play a show where he doesn't have to travel. So I'm thinking maybe sort of like an Ozfest type thing where he just goes to an outdoor show and he's headlining or whatever. And if he can't stand up for the full hour and a half, and let's face it, he's not going to do more than an hour and a half. It's not going to be a 2-hour show. But even I couldn't stand up for an hour and a half and run around the stage and sing at my age, and he's a lot older and far more infirm. So yeah, they may devise a chair, one of these black big black chairs in the middle
Yeah.
of the stage, and he'll be sitting on it with a stick, and a hat and a mask and whatever, and he'll be the center of the stage, and he might stand up for 2 songs and then he'll sit down. That's what I could possibly see.
Will they have the areas taped off to where his bandmates can't approach the throne like they did with Rudy Sarzo back in the day? This is your square. You can't leave your square. You can move as much as you want within the square, but you can't leave the square.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 2 things. Yeah, I wish they would put back the Jack and Ozzy TV show. I don't know if it's made it to your
Yeah.
guys' area. I think it's great having Jack drive that van or whatever, and Ozzy sitting there sleeping or drawing or whatever and making crude comments whenever. I think the chemistry is brilliant and enjoyable. And on the same thing, the Jason from the YouTube show does the Stephen Piercy thing. And it was said on the show that the guitar players are told to kind of stay away from Stephen Piercy, that he has his area and you stay in yours. Just stay out of my way. That's Stephen's thing.
Mm.
That's why he's got the brass knuckles. So if anyone gets close enough, he can tap him on the jaw a little.
Coming to
Don't encroach on my area there, Dan.
Yeah.
Stay away. Stay away.
I want to get that priest hat for my wife. She's gonna dig that. She sold me one.
Just pass it on up, Jeremy. See if it appears in his. There you go. Johan, what were you going to say?
Strange thing. I would like to. I would go and see Phil Collins sitting down,
Okay.
but not Ozzy.
Well, I think
that's how I feel. I don't know why, but I don't care if he's standing up or sitting down or playing the drums. I would like to see Phil Collins, and I'm perfectly happy if he sat down.
That's a good point. You know, Tori Amos sits at the piano and does what he does or she does.
Mhm.
The guy that exactly. So why couldn't Ozzy just do that? That's a good point. But that's
Are you saying they should duct tape his hands to a piano so it makes it look as if he's doing something additional while he's up there? Yeah. Well, I think there's a few things there. We all know that Ozzy doesn't have the greatest voice, as Johan alluded to. Also, I mean, let's be honest. When is the last time that he's changed anything in his set list? I mean, and we're talking about, at this point, 41 years. I mean, since he toured Blizzard of Oz for the first time. I mean, those songs are still make up the majority of his set list. You know, how many songs is he playing off of Diary? None. How many is he playing off of Bark at the Moon? Just the title track. Ultimate Sin, nothing. Oh well, Shot in the Dark, maybe. No Rest for the Wicked, nothing. No More Tears, maybe 2 songs. And then, you know, the 4 Sabbath songs that he does. I mean, when has he ever changed his set list? Sure, he's thrown in a song here and there, but it's been a very long time since we've gotten, you know, a major shift in his set list. So that's the difference. I mean, with Phil Collins, Phil apparently still has a good voice. So even if he's not moving around, you're going to hear the voice. I mean, that would be like comparing an Ozzy sitting down to a Dio sitting down. If you know that Dio is going to give you 2 hours and it's going to be some of the hits with some deep tracks, I think you would say, you know what? I don't care that he's sitting down. I just want to hear that amazing voice. Whereas with Ozzy, I mean, it's going to be a rough show, you know. And I mean, good on him, because he's got diehards that will tell you, "Oh no, his voice is great. He sounds awesome. And it's obvious that it doesn't. You know, there's just some people, especially with the internet, that just want to get that As they say in pro wrestling, they're chasing the hug. They say certain things so that you get the reaction from that person online. You say something nice about them so that they mention you, and then, oh, Ozzy mentioned me on Twitter, when it's probably some intern that is replying. So, um, Jeremy, real quickly here, since I've fallen behind on new singles and stuff like that, what new singles have come out this week that kind of jump out at you? I know that you mentioned the Overkill. What else is
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, the Overkill one was good. It was very typical Overkill. I forgot the name of it, but you'll be able to pick it up on YouTube and wherever else. So we've heard 2 songs off the new album now, and I know Dan's excited for this. He's got it on order, and you won't be disappointed. I don't know if you've heard the second one yet, Dan.
No, I'm waiting for the album release.
Okay, so yeah, but you'll like it. It's it's very typical Overkill, so it's great. I've been listening to a lot of albums actually today, so it's mainly albums rather than singles. I didn't notice whether the Rival Sons one had come out. I was looking out for that one, I think, a week ago. But
Yeah.
you were saying that the album's been delayed, I think, so maybe we're waiting
June.
for. Yeah, yeah. I listened to the Answer, their album today, and a few others, but everybody's going to have to wait for our album review of the month, which will be out at the end of the month.
That's it. Awesome. Johan, anything new that's catching your ear?
Ooh. Perhaps. Just give me a second.
Sure.
Yes, I was talking. Yeah, it is.
Surprise test that I threw out there at Johan. He wasn't ready to have a quiz. He thought it would be next week sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't have the name of the band, but my son is, he's 17 and he's listened to hard rock and metal, and he listens to new bands, and he had given me this new band, and I will give it to you, but not now.
Okay.
There is new bands, and you presented some good bands as well, Victor, on the Patreon page. I think that the new Death Stars single were good.
Mhm.
It's not perhaps metal, but I like it. It's fun. Yeah. So the new Death Stars single.
Okay. Dan, anything new that's caught your ear?
Surprising to me, and it was previewed a little bit, as the Winery Dogs. I've dispelled them as not being relevant anymore and whatever. It's just a project and whatever. But I checked it out, and I don't like the entire album, but some of the songs, with the way the bass, you can tell like when Billy had something to do with the song. Some of that has a vibe like Talus, and it brings back a good memory, or maybe the other Billy Sheehan projects. But when he does that, I like those songs. I think it's the second or third song that I really like. It's kind of mellow, and it just has that bass tone all over. It's like that feels really good. So that was a surprise to me that I wasn't even going to give that album a chance, and I listened to it, and it's okay. I don't know about the first one, but this new one might be better than the other thing and that I've actually listened to.
And the interesting thing is that they self-released this album, where a lot of the other stuff was on. I don't remember if it was like on Nuclear Blast or something like that, but this one is self-released. So, I mean, they're obviously calling all the shots with this stuff. I similar to what you said, I listened to the album and I found it to be better than what I anticipated it to be, because the earlier stuff honestly just kind of bored me. You have those types of players. It's the same problem that I had with Black Country Communion, with Chickenfoot. You've got all these big illustrious players, and then it's tame by comparison to what they can actually do. I mean, I know a lot of people love Richie Kotzen. I'm looking at Jeremy as I'm saying this. But I mean, the Richie Kotzen that I loved is the one that had the distortion all the way up, in the at late 80s, early 90s, who was shredding all over the place. And once he got into all the bluesy stuff, I just kind of lost interest. But I know Jeremy's into that stuff. So
Yeah, the Richie Kotzen as a singer, I'm not totally invested in and know a lot about. But when I hear him now on this one, especially, it kind of reminds me, it makes me sad in a way of Richie. It sounds like Soundgarden would be if they could still be around, and he's dead. So that's what it does for me.
okay. And Johan, you want me to read this?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Johan is saying that he has a song for us tonight. The band is called, if I pronounce this in semi-Spanish, semi-English, in Spanglish, it would be Tenebre, I guess. In Spanish would be Tenebre. The song is called No Wrong. Not new, but good. We like good.
Yeah, it's a good song made by Charles Manson from the beginning, but they made an excellent cover for this song, and I have actually opened for them twice during the 90s. So check that song out. It's an honest, tip. It's a good song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any parting words before we wrap the show up, folks?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
And that's your kids telling you. No, that's you telling your kids, I've heard that song enough times. That's enough. That makes me laugh. That makes me smile.
Yes. And there are other songs that he migrated to this week that he's heard me play in the car where I said, no more than 2 times a day because I love this song. You're going to kill it for me. Jeremy, any parting words?
Yeah, just if you want to hear new music and you want to hear comments from all of us, join Victor's Patreon group. Join now because it's cheap.
Yeah, excellent.
And we're there.
Awesome. Johan, anything else?
No. I think no. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you for listening. This is so good. This is so great.
Yes, it is always a lot of fun. And to everyone listening or watching live or listening to the replay, I posed this question to Jeremy earlier this week. What will come first? Def Leppard recording a real rock album? Or John Sykes coming back and actually releasing a solo album that was supposed to come out like 15 years ago? So, on that note, we will wrap the show up. Thank you to Brad Dahl, who joined us in the chat, Tony as well, and Jose. Thanks, you guys, for your support and for chiming in. And thank you, Dan, Johan, and Jeremy for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Signals from Mars. See ya.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.